Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video, huge news coming from Bitmain from wdms 2025. We do have the new line of Bitcoin ASICs. The S23 is official. It's not just a hydro unit, it's a hydro, air-cooled, and immersion unit. We do have the specs, we do have the release window. We're going to talk about it. We'll compare the increase in efficiency. We'll compare it to the others to kind of see how this thing stacks up with everything else. Okay. If that sounds good, guys, stay tuned. Let's get right to this thing. So this literally just happened. They did live stream WDMS this year, and they did unveil the new S23 lineup. Okay. This is being the standout, which is what they've kind of been hinting towards. The hydro unit, 9.5 joules a terahash. They did break that 10 joules a terahash threshold, which is pretty freaking big, right? My kind of interest here, again, these hydro units are three-phase, need a lot of infrastructure for them, so it's not really meant for us plebs. It's more definitely institutional type miners. My interest here was the form factor. Were they going to continue their weird little rectangle boxes, or were they going to go more where the industry is going and more of these server styles? Okay, we can see here what they decided to go with, even though we do know they are dipping their toes into those server style, which to me kind of makes the more sense, right? But again, they have a lot of infrastructure for these type units with their containers, the ant racks, etc., etc. So in a sense, it does kind of make sense for them to continue on. The more interesting news, though, is going to be the air-cooled units, right? So there is an Antminer S23 air-cooled, 11 joules a terahash, 318 terahash this thing, okay? So pretty beefy upgrade. They do have an immersion model also. It has two modes. Normal mode is 11 joules a terahash, 368. High power mode, 12 joules a terahash, 442 terahash. So pretty beefy there. Again, our main interest though, definitely the air-cooled unit. That's what we're going to focus on. That's what we're going to kind of compare. Okay, so 11 joules a terahash, 318 terahash. The big standout with the release window though, looks like these things aren't coming till quite a ways down the road, right? So currently right now as is, Q1 2026, at least for the hydro units. Air-cooled units, probably in the same time frame, maybe a little bit sooner, maybe a little bit later. Either way, though, it's quite a ways down the road. It's not something that's going to be shipping next month, okay? As far as pricing goes, they didn't release any of the pricing on the air-cooled units. The hydro unit, $25.5 a terahash after coupon, which again is going to be the street price, so around 15 grand or so, right? Which is definitely up there. But again, look at that damn efficiency, right? So that's what you're definitely paying for. Now let's kind of compare this thing, right? Let's look at different features here. The main point of comparison, let's just look at all of them. Again, if we're comparing the air-cooled unit, that's what we're going to focus on, right? In reality, it doesn't even make sense to really even care about the others. So it's going to be the S21 XP. Okay, so this is kind of something we mentioned in that BitDeer video, and this is why we're going to be very curious as to what the next gen would be, because it does look like we are finally getting to that point where how much smaller are these chips going to get? How much more efficient are they going to get beyond this point? I think we finally hit that point where we may start seeing more diminishing returns where just it's going to get more difficult to really increase that efficiency because, again, these chips can only get so small. As the technology improves, though, of course, they're going to continue. But this gen is probably the least difference in performance overall. Okay, we're going from, again, the S21 XP, which is the last of the S21 models, at least for now. Maybe they'll release more, but this is their last flagship potentially. 13.5 joules a terahash. The new guy is 11 joules a terahash. It's only about a 20% increase in efficiency. Okay, and this is a whole generation. It's not an S21 XP Plus Pro left, right, up, down. It's an S23, meaning it's the next generation. Okay, and it's only about an 18-19% increase. So the hydro unit is more impressive just because you're looking at it and it's going to be 9.5. Kind of the same story though, right? If we look at the S21 XP Plus, it's 11 joules a terahash, right? Kind of even a smaller gap there. Okay, so although both units are definitely impressive, it's impressive that they were able to hit under that 10 joules a terahash threshold. But as far as having to wait till January, like I wouldn't put any weight on that, right? The S21 XP isn't far off from it, right? Especially with things like custom firmware using brains and such, people have been able to increase the efficiency, getting it pretty damn close to that, as well as clocking higher overall terahash, so kind of getting close in that range also, right? So definitely impressive unit, but it's not something where it's a game changer where everything else is wrecked. At least when we compare it to the Bitmain units, where it is a bit more of a standout, is when we compare it to the next nearest manufacturer, and that's going to be the Bitdeer, the SealMiner A2 Pro. When we do that comparison, it is definitely quite a bit better, right? And this is the A2 Pro. This is not even the A2. The A2 is 16.5, which is more in the realm with the Canaan and such. The A2 Pro Air is under 15 joules per terahash, but going from 15 to 11, it is a little bit heftier. But even then, it's not massive. It's not a 2x increase. It's not going from like 30 joules per terahash to 18 to 15, etc., etc. It's not something that's going to change the game. Okay, and as we look at the profitability for the S21 XP, your daily revenue, this is on 10 cent kilowatt hour, $15.88, $7 a day profit. This is for the hydro unit. In reality, we're not too concerned with it. We're going to focus on the air-cooled unit. It'd be about 318 terahash, 3,498 watts, so it's going to be about 3,500 or so, probably closer to freaking 3,800, but we'll find out. But $18.22 in daily revenue, $9.64 in profit. Okay, so again, not a massive difference between the previous gen. Yes, it is a decent difference. 18-20% always definitely welcome. But again, having to wait 6-7 months for it, price is probably going to be through the roof, even higher than S21 XP. Just go with the S21 XP, right? At least for now. The other thing we want to kind of look at is, I think the pressure from Bitdeer, kind of like what we talked about in that video, is getting to Bitmain, right? And I think that's why they announced this guy so early, right? Again, it's not going to release for another 6 months, potentially plus. And the fact that units are coming out way faster than ever before, right? If we look at just for this cycle alone, the S21 finally came out in January. Kind of the same thing, though, was announced quite a ways before then, but it didn't really start releasing that first batch until January 2024. A lot of people got that thing with, the potential that, okay, this is going to be the best Bitcoin ASIC for the cycle. And then 6 months later, what happens? We get the S21 Pro, right? Extremely fast, decent increase in everything, going from 200 terahash to 234, 3,500 watts. And then the real confusing one is just a few months later, right? In September 2024, when they debuted the S21 XP. Okay. Kind of weird that they went so aggressive with the releases. Again, in 1 year, 3 different models of the S21, right? Which is pretty different from what's happened in the past. And then now, even right now, again, we're already going to the next generation. We already have the S23 announced in 2025. Okay, it's not going to come out till 2026 most likely, but still pretty quick turnaround, and I think it's from the pressure from these other manufacturers, right? When we compare it to like the previous models, the S19 Pro came out April 2020. There were different models. There was like the J Pros, which are more efficient, but they were smaller units. And all the variants, again, there was a ton of variants of the S19. We didn't really get a significant upgrade, though, until the XP, and that was about 2 years later. We went from 110 to 140 terahash. Decent increase in efficiency, right? But it's just, there was a 2-year gap there versus, look at what happened here, right? It's just such a faster turnaround. Everything's kind of accelerating at a pretty rapid rate, but just something to note, where it's just, don't be surprised to see other competitors. Again, we've seen Bitdeer's timeline where they're expecting something probably around the time that thing releases, and maybe they're just trying to front run them essentially. We're going to have to wait and see. We do know other manufacturers are also getting into the Bitcoin game, namely Ice River. What they're going to release exactly, it's going to be extremely hard for them to compete on the cutting edge with like WhatsMiner, Bitmain and such. My prediction, it'll be more of a home thing. Maybe something similar to like the Canaan Avalon Q, somewhere in that realm. Because it'd be tough for them to really compete with Bitdeer, What's Miner, Bitmain. We're going to have to wait and see just because, again, the competition is definitely heating up. And there's only other manufacturers coming in. We're not even talking about Aradyne or a lot of these others, which are continuing to upgrade. It's pretty crazy, bros. But again, overall thoughts, S23 is impressive, but it's not that big of a jump, right? Let me know in the comments, guys. What do you guys think? Do you guys kind of agree? Do you guys kind of see it differently? Let me know in the comments what you guys think. Please comment, like, and subscribe, guys. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I am out.